What?
It's time now for My Two Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.
Hi, this is My Two Favorite Librarians. I'm Denise Corey.
I'm Chantel Taylor, and today we're talking about the 80s.
Oh, the 80s. Everything was neon. I had jelly shoes.
I never had jelly shoes.
Oh, yeah, no, I
didn't like jelly shoes.
Very fashionable in my jelly shoes purchased from the Met.
I did have lace Madonna gloves.
I did too. Mine were peach.
I think mine were black.
Of course, in the 80s, I was primarily reading books that were for a younger audience.
Yes.
As I was
Younger in the 80s.
But I was really trying to remember. There was a book I read in junior high, and I cannot find the title of it. I believe it was called Poochie, but I couldn't find it. I was doing some searches, but I can't remember who the author was. It was one of those 80s trashy romance novels, and I just remember that the cover had the woman with the short curled hair and pearls. You know how that was the style
yes.
if you were a working woman in the 80s. So if anybody remembers Poochie, then
was that the name of a character?
It was the name of the character. But I also think it was the name of the book. And then when I was trying to look it up last night, there was this 1980s sort of cartoon character with the same name. But the main character was a woman. She had gone to boarding school.
Everybody in the 80s went to boarding school.
Apparently. In those books they did.
I had a whole series in the 80s called Canby Hall, which was boarding school in New England.
Yes, but that wasn't trashy romance.
No, I suppose, but...
So, yeah, I could not remember.
Well, and a lot of people, I think, obviously, with the 80s, much like now, many books are printed, and not all of them are classics.
Oh, no, this was not a classic.
So, the ones that we see over and over again, the ones that we're still talking about...
Those were the ones that were bestsellers or won
Not
prizes
necessarily the bestsellers, but they're the ones that have stood the test of time for whatever reason, whether they're a cult favorite who has gained sort of a following and more respect. Because, is anybody still wanting to read the Thornbirds?
I think I should read the Thornbirds. I believe that the books were published in the 70s. The mini-series came out in the 80s.
No, I think, well...
Now you gotta look it up, don't you?
I do. Anyway.
I went into list challenges and looked at a list of the most popular books of the 80s.
Wait. Okay, first of all, before we start doing that, let's talk about a book from the 80s that's scarring and horrible that is now so relevant.
The Handmaid's Tale?
Yes!
See, I can predict.
That book was so terrible at the time. I read it in the early 90s, and we've talked about this before, because I was at that perfect age.
And it's because that book has destroyed you.
Yes, yeah. But it was intriguing to see a lot of the books on the list that are still being recaptured or reimagined and are still super relevant for right now in our lives. And I don't mean pandemic.
No, more about what is happening with
the Russians are back,
the women's rights, and civil rights. Because also a book published in the 80s was The Color Purple. And that book was huge. I've read that book. It stands the test of time. It is a very, very good book.
And going back to The Handmaid's Tale, it was really fascinating in the 80s. She talked about, basically bank machines before there were really bank machines.
Yeah. And getting paid...
electronically because they were just shutting down all the women's bank accounts. You couldn't get, and everything was done, which is the world we are living in right now.
Yeah.
I don't carry any money.
I usually have a couple of bucks in my wallet.
Never.
But especially right now, nobody wants money from you.
Yeah.
So if some terrible power took over the banking system, and like I have nothing.
Yeah.
I have some change sitting in a dish at home, and that's about it.
Another one, before we get back to your list, Watchmen.
I've never read Watchmen.
So Watchmen is a graphic novel. It was published, obviously, in the 80s, and it's sort of like an anti-superhero book where they talk about the superheroes have been banned. Because, of course, not every superhero is Superman, where he's pure and sweet and the good of, like, not every human being on the planet is that person.
No.
So it was an interesting, like, look at the superhero myth. And again, we're in a world where we want our superheroes. We want people that can come in and solve all the big problems in one fell swoop. So it's interesting. They've just, I don't know if it got renewed for a second or third season, but they've just done a television series about Watchmen. The movie was awful. Don't even bother with the movie. Read the graphic novel. Graphic novel was amazing. I was surprised how much I loved it.
And now is a good time for me to put in a plug for the library and the services that we're offering. So if you would like to read the graphic novel of Watchmen or anything else, we have a couple ways for you to access books right now. Yay! So we have Borrow by Mail. Any citizen of Cumberland County who has a library card can use the Borrow by Mail service for free. We will mail things to you. We also include return postage for you to mail it back to us. If you do not have a library card, contact us because we will provide you one of those for free as well. And starting today, grab and go contactless pickup.
Yeah, technically not starting today because it's already booked because we're doing this in advance. Today is test pilot day.
Yes, and all of our spots for today are booked. But we will start booking for next week. We may expand the hours. We're just going to see how it goes. We want to make sure that we can offer this service to people as safely as possible. And if you would like to book a time, right now we are only doing it at the Forefathers Library in Amherst. And you can call 902-667-2549 to book a pickup time.
And we're starting with a very limited number of spots and time period just again so we can safely do it and figure out all the things that aren't working, and it will be slowly increased as we go forward.
And do not forget, we have downloadable ebooks, audiobooks, magazines, TV shows, movies, and music. You can find them on our website, which is
www.cumberlandpubliclibraries.ca.
Yeah, so there are lots of services out there. I was just thinking that if somebody wanted to read The Watchmen.
Or The Handmaid's Tale, don't do it.
The Handmaid's Tale was a great book. I mean, obviously, the fact that you are still scarred from that book 30 years later means that it made a huge impression on you.
Yes, it ruined me for all dystopian fiction forever and ever. And yeah, if you're in your 20s and you care about reproductive rights, don't read this book.
Or do read this book.
It will just make you angry and you'll turn out like me.
Oh, we don't want anyone to turn out like you. So I decided to pick up a 1980s book that I had enjoyed, but of course I read it in the 90s. It is called Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
She's a UK writer, and this had been a book that was recommended to me. And the book was published in 1985. And I remember finding it really interesting, and so I picked it up from the shelves here in Amherst, which means that when I finish reading it, we'll quarantine it for 5 days, and then somebody else can borrow it if they want to. It's a semi-autobiographical novel about a young girl named Jeanette growing up in rural England, her mother is a very evangelical Christian woman, and her father is kind of goes along with whatever her mother says. And so she's growing up in this super, super Christian home. It's not a very long book, but I started it, yesterday, and I've already read 70 pages. So it sucks you in immediately. Right now I'm at the point where she's been forced to go to school and the teacher is admonishing her because she's scaring the other kids by telling them frightening Bible stories. How do you feel about Judy Blume? Do you want to talk about some Judy Blume?
I never read any Judy Blume.
None?
No.
You didn't even read her adult novels?
No.
Oh, you should read Smart Women. Because I remember probably early high school, it was like, here's a novel by Judy Blume that is not super fudge. That is not, are you there, God, it's me, Margaret. It's about two women who are friends. They're both in the midst of divorce, and one of the women starts an affair with the other woman's ex-husband.
That happens so often.
So, yeah, Judy Blume did write some adult novels, and this one is kind of trashy.
Good for her.
Yeah. So, Judy Blume, she's not just super fudge. Although apparently she started to put new books out in that series.
Oh, interesting.
Inspired by her grandson.
Oh, that's cute. Another book that has just recently been made into a movie. Again, It.
Oh, yeah.
If you're looking for something, along the lines of Les Mis as far as size goes.
It was made into 2 movies.
Exactly.
Because the book is a cajillion pages long. And I was just looking in that section of the shelf. I know we have a copy of It here in the Amherst Library. So that is available for borrowing right now.
If Peter Jackson had made it, it would have been 6 movies.
It would have been, yeah. I didn't find those movies scary.
Well, no, you're old now.
Thanks.
Clowns in the sewer, I mean.
In the 80s, I remember finding the miniseries scary, but I didn't find those movies.
Well, yeah, Tim Curry, he's terrifying no matter what he plays.
Tim Curry is often terrifying.
He is.
Dr. Frankenfurter.
No matter what he does. One thing I was reading in the 80s was S.E. Hinton.
Oh, did you?
I did read The Outsiders and Rumble
80s?
Fit. Yeah, because I read them in junior high.
Those were published in the 70s, weren't they?
I don't know, honestly.
Okay.
I feel like, you could be right.
I'm often right.
Oh, whatever.
If you want to see us be cranky at each other even more, you can follow us on our Facebook group, My Two Favorite Librarians, and we also post a weekly podcast there. Ooh, do you want to know what I heard?
What?
Copper Tree is reopening.
Oh, yes.
Copper Tree is reopening with shortened hours for now. I'm very excited. I need new pants. Desperately.
Yeah, really. I'm 0 for 2 in my pants.
Yeah, buying pants online is a difficult proposition. So I'm very excited that Copper Tree is reopened.
Do you want to talk about a book that was published in the 80s that's very much beloved that I hated?
Yes.
Let's talk about A Confederacy of Dunces.
I've never read that.
It was awful.
But so many people love it.
Yes. One of my bosses in Halifax, she was a huge fan of this book. Oh, it was so funny, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know that I made it through 20 pages. I will tell you afterwards what put me off. I cannot repeat it on the radio.
Okay. I look forward to that discussion. How about an update on what I'm reading and where I'm at?
Oh, yes.
I have completed 37 books and 28 of the 50 Pop Sugar reading challenges.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a few.
So I'm on track to probably read 100 books this year, depending on, well, especially if what I'm doing for my vacation is sitting on my deck. There will be a lot of book reading.
Yeah. I won't be sitting on my deck, but maybe I'll read books again someday.
You could sit on my deck, but you don't like the sun to touch you or being outside.
Yeah.
So, seems like a waste. What are you reading? You're reading.
I did read books. I picked up a few favorites in hopes that they would make me happy because nothing reading-wise has made me terribly happy. So I reread Beard Science, loved. I'm happy. It has given me joy in reading again. So I started the first book in the series, which is called Truth or Beard. And it's Dwayne and Jessica's book. And so
they're all beard puns.
They are beard puns. And I keep threatening to start Chasing Cassandra by Lisa Kleypas. Mm-hmm. I might
and
also
you keep not.
Yeah, I'm really scared. Books are scaring me now. And I may go back and try and reread Sarah MacLean's latest series, which is called, well, I probably can't repeat it on the radio.
Okay.
Well, I can, but I don't want Ron to have to bleep it out. The first book in the series was called Brazen and the Beast, maybe, by Sarah MacLean. And I didn't love it, and I was really upset. But I may try it again in audio and see if I can get through because the last book is about to be released, like, in June.
I am actually reading a romance right now.
Are you?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren.
She's cray-cray.
Have you read it?
No, but I listened to the Heaving Bosoms podcast about it, which you may want to listen to.
Not until after, because they always make it sound like a totally...
No, not Fated Mates.
Oh.
Heaving Bosoms.
Yeah. I get them confused.
It's fine. They really liked that book.
You should post the link to their podcast again on our My Two Favorite Librarians.
I can do that. I'll post... Facebook. Maybe I'll post it to one of their Tingler episodes.
Oh. Or, just the generic link.
Oh, no.
Podcast.
We need a good one. Or I could post it to Beard Science.
Yeah, there. So, Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating. Hazel met Josh when she was in university. They did not meet in a nice way. They met because she threw up on his feet, like you do. And
it's happened to all of us.
I don't think that I've ever actually thrown up on somebody's feet.
I've had someone throw up on my feet.
Oh.
Yeah, high school.
Okay, I was going to say university. So they had a few other awkward run-ins in university, and then she doesn't see him again for like 10 years. And then she meets him at a party thrown by his sister, who is a good friend of hers.
I was going to say, isn't she best friends with the sister?
Except that she initially doesn't realize that.
Oh, I don't remember that. I'm going to have to listen to the podcast again.
Yeah. So they meet again 10 years later. Will sparks fly is the kind of premise, but obviously it will because it's a romance.
And it's very much like opposites attract because she's very like frantic and fly by the seat of her pants. And he's very like
methodical
and
yeah. So, we'll see if I can finish it. I'm enjoying it thus far.
I think they're pretty popular. I did not love their first series of books, which again, I'm not sure if I can say on this radio station.
Who's they?
Christina Lauren. They're two women.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I talked about that last week in Pseudonyms, Denise.
I almost never listened to you. Okay.
Another really popular one that just came out is The Unhoneymooner, I think. Honeymooners, which is another one. So they've gotten away from their initial series and they're writing these standalones and they're very popular.
So we'll see if I can finish it. We'll see how into it I am. And I'm on page 180. What did I tell you yesterday? 181 of Les Mis?
Yeah.
I haven't picked it up since yesterday, so I will still be reading that book for a very long time. But now, Fantine has cut off her hair. It's like bam, bam, bam. Everything is happening within the first 200 pages.
I'm telling you, there'll be at least 1,000 pages of just describing like them loading their weapons or marching and the whole political.
Well, I mean, there was a bunch of pages about a bishop who has since passed, who is no longer part of the book. But I'm still only 200 pages in, and like all of this stuff has happened. So, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find our handles on our website, which is...
Actually, yes, you can. You can find links to them on our new website, www.cumberlandpubliclibraries.ca.
Yeah, and you may notice that our website looks a little different. We just had some changes made to it. So if you can't find something on there...
We're keeping it pretty sparse at the moment just because
we only have so much we can offer at the moment. Also, please comment on the My Two Favorite Librarians Facebook page. We would love to hear about what you're reading or how much you loved or hated Handmaid's Tale.
Don't read it.
Chantel's going to post the links to those romance podcasts. Yeah. And on Wednesdays, we do an update on Facebook.
You can see how my sweater's going.
Yes. Yeah. And my mystery knit-along.
What are we talking about next week, Denise?
Next week, we're talking about books about travel. Because, again...
Isn't every book about travel, Denise?
I wrote this list back in...
Before pandemic.
Probably December. So we were figuring out our year to come. And yeah, books about travel are probably the only way we're going to get to travel for a long time now. So we might as well enjoy our armchair travel.
Way to be depressing, Denise.
Yeah. See you next week.
Bye.
My Two Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.